The Europeans were still living on caves. China was already at the height of civilization. For the last 3,000 years, if not longer, China was at the height of human civilization and economic development. All the comparable civilizations of that era are basically gone or are at least no longer significant in the world. China's rise today, a return to the trend line of 3,000 years of history.
大家好，一个拥有3000多年文明历史的国家，为什么在重新崛起之后，却没有选择像霸权国家一样扩张影响力？中国的崛起究竟是在挑战现有世界秩序，还是在寻找自己曾经的位置？在一场演讲中，香港企业家陈启宗分享了他对中国崛起的独特观察。他认为，理解今天的中国，不能只从近几十年的经济增长来看，更要放回几千年的历史长河中去理解。在他看来，中国并不是一个突然出现的新兴力量，而是一个曾经长期处于世界文明前列的国家。如今的发展更像是一种历史性的回归，是中华文明重新回到世界舞台。陈启宗认为，今天的世界正在经历一次深刻变化，而最大的疑问在于，一个重新崛起的大国究竟会选择怎样的道路？在他看来，中国的发展并不是简单复制过去任何一个强国的模式，也不是为了争夺唯一的主导地位。与此同时，美国作为长期影响世界的大国，也面临着属于自己的挑战。未来真正决定世界走向的，或许不是谁取代谁，而是不同力量能否找到一种新的相处方式，共同面对这个不断变化的时代。那么，未来的世界究竟是中美走向对抗，还是两个大国寻找共存之道？让我们一起走进这场演讲。
I was asked to talk about China and the new world order that may change as a result of the rise of China. We all know that every couple hundred years, there's a rising of a great nation. In the 17th century, you have the Britain after defeating the Spanish Armada in 1588. And for 300 years or so, Britain became a very important country in the world. 120 years ago, roughly, America rose to replace Britain on a per capita GDP basis higher than that of the Britain. And in the ensuing 100-some years, America became by far the most important country in the world. It is not every day that you and I see the rise of a great nation. And surely in the last 40 years, we have seen one. But it is not right to say that it is a rise of a nation, because that nation has risen long time ago. Just like to say that Israel is a new nation is absolutely wrong, because you have been around for a long time. So China's rise, whether we like it or not, is going to change a lot of things. Let me first state my position that not for a single moment do I believe that China will be able to replace the United States, nor does China have the intention. The United States, as far as I'm concerned, will become the single most powerful, important country in the world, not just because I am an American citizen, but objectively speaking, I just don't see anyone in the horizon, China included, that will in any shape or form threaten the leadership of the United States, nor does China want to be. So with that background, let me just tell you a little bit about China, what it is. If you don't understand what China is, you will not be able to figure out what it wants and what role does it want to play in the international scene. Then my second point, and I only have two, the second point is a few comments on China's relationship with the rest of the world, in particular with the United States and with this part of the world. And then I will conclude. First of all, let me address the issue of what is China. Think about this. Henry Kissinger used to say, when we, the Europeans, as if he's still in Europe, when the Europeans were still living on caves, China was already at the height of civilization. For the last 3,000 years, if not longer, China was at the height of human civilization and economic development. All the comparable civilizations of that era are basically gone or are at least no longer significant in the world. Where is the Persian culture? Perhaps a menace, but nothing more than that. Egypt, 80 million people, still a wonderful country, but no longer that influential in the global scene. You may say Israel, sorry, I come from a big country. Israel's only have 9 million people. You certainly punch above your weight class, but nonetheless, in terms of a civilization, in terms of a major global player, I think China is perhaps the only one who was there 3,000 years ago and who is still there today. Just like your language 3,000 years ago and today are basically similar to my knowledge, and I did study Hebrew a little. Chinese, same thing. You can read ancient texts of 4,000 years. The geographic territory of China 3,000 years ago is roughly the same as it is today. Of course, we know what happened since. In the last 200 years, China has waned significantly, so much so that nobody cared for China. Who cares? But today, after 200 years of terrible history, and surely as Israeli people, as Jews, you understand what terrible recent history means, and we, the Chinese, also know that. Is China's rise today a return to the trend line of 3,000 of years of history, or is it just a blip? I suspect that China's rise of the last 40 years is perhaps a return to the trend line of 3,000 years. So let me say something about what China is, which may be new to many of you. A professor at MIT, a sinologist, defined China the best way I can ever imagine. And no Chinese, in my opinion, can ever say such a thing. Only someone like Professor Lucian Pai, P-Y-E, he's a Caucasian gentleman. He's a friend of mine also. Unfortunately, he died about 10 years ago. Professor Lucian Pai says, China is a civilization which pretends to be a nation state. China is not a nation state a la 1648 Westphalia Agreement type of understanding of what a nation state is. Rather, China is a civilization which pretends to be a nation state. And what is the root of that civilization? It's Confucianism and it's Taoism. Both philosophies are very, very pacifist rather than aggressive. So one day I found myself maybe 10, 12 years ago in a room with Joe Nye. Many of you know Joe from the Kennedy School, together with Larry Summers and some China experts from Harvard, and Mrs. Tung Chih-hua, the first chief executive of Hong Kong, and the foreign minister at that time of China, Yang Jiechi. And I asked Joe, I said, Joe, you coined the word soft power. Tell me, in the last 3,000 years, which country or which civilization have used the soft power the most and the most successful? He cannot answer my question. Maybe he's not objective, I don't know. That answer is easy if you were to ask in the last 100 years, which country used soft power the most successfully and the most? Of course, it's America. If you were to say last 3,000 years, 300 years, surely there's Britain. If you were to say 2,000 years, I would say two. In the West, Rome, Roman Empire, and in the East, China. But if you were to say 3,000 years, sorry, Rome did not start until, what, 64 BCE. So China is perhaps the country that have used soft power the most in the last 3,000 years and the most successfully. China does not need to use military, as your defense minister mentioned. War is always a last resort. Read Chinese history. China almost never need to use force. So China, when you have a big market rising at, in the past, 8-10%, now 6-7%, over a long period of time with 1.38 billion people, a lot of things are not what you think. A lot of things that what can never be done can be done. So now let me turn to the world order that China sees it. In particular, I want to address two issues. The first one is China-US relations. The second one is China's position vis-a-vis this part of the world. I think that US-China relations overall is going to be fine. I'm not overly worried about it. I think that China is extraordinarily rational about it. And there's a lot of room for negotiation. And China will be very accommodating, not wanting a divorce. And if neither do I think the United States, but they will talk tough, but it's okay. We understand Trump a little. And let him be. He is the president of the United States, and you have to respect him as such. And so I don't think that US-China relationship will get too out of hand. You have a weather problem, you have an immigration problem, you have a financial stability problem, you have an environmental problem, you have a drug trafficking problem. You have so many problems in the world that without the United States and China working together, there'll be no solutions. And for that reason, I believe that US-China relationship will not get overly bad. It will be rough, no question about it. It has been rough in the last 30, 40 years. But I think it will be okay.
回顾陈启宗的这场演讲，可以看到他试图从更长的历史视角解释中国崛起背后的逻辑。在他的观点中，中国今天的发展并不是一个新兴力量突然出现，更不是简单复制过去大国争霸的道路，而更像是一个拥有数千年文明的国家，在经历长期低谷之后，重新找回自己的位置。当然，世界对于中国崛起仍然存在不同声音。有人担心，一个快速发展的中国是否会改变现有国际格局，也有人认为，中国的发展更多是经济实力、科技能力和综合国力提升后的自然结果。无论如何，中国过去几十年的变化已经深刻影响了世界，从制造业到科技创新，从基础设施到全球贸易，中国正在展现出越来越强的竞争力。在陈启宗看来，中国真正追求的并不是建立新的霸权，而是在自身复兴的同时，寻找与世界相处的新方式。未来的国际秩序也许不会再由单一力量决定，而取决于不同文明、不同国家能否在竞争中找到合作空间。那么，中国的崛起究竟会带来一个更加多元的世界，还是会引发新的全球竞争，一个重新走向强盛的文明？未来又会如何影响世界格局？欢迎在评论区留下你的看法。